Global narcissism is fueled by an insatiable appetite for control that comes with personal wealth. It's much like sugar is for cancer. The deep state is deeply infected, but the situation goes way beyond a few vital organs of our society. Governments worldwide have failed their citizens for such a long time now. Citizens not only have lost interest, but resistance is increasing also. This is a global phenomenon which the world has never seen before. National governments are giving way to globalism. Globalism is being questioned. At the same time, we're seeing a global economy crisis on the horizon like none other. This has never worked out well for a single country, let alone the world in the past. I'd like to encourage you to look at this situation in a bigger picture, which I believe is turning out to be one of the best, greatest gifts that we could ask for. I got a pretty good look at this old timeline of servitude that we've been on, and it's loaded with landmines. It wasn't pretty at all. All the souls out there that were eventually interested in ascending were so screwed. Yeah, it was that bad. It was a timeline designed to capture souls indefinitely. So I thought it was pretty prudent to explain the best as I can to all those that are not quite up to speed to the multiple curtains that we have here. I have to be honest, my old studies on prophecy and revelations now make sense. I know the bottom line is people make their own reality. I've seen it play out in relationships, businesses, but what some people call the grand scale of karmic events really eluded me for a very long time. Well, it all boils down to this. If you find yourself in a bad situation, the quicker you cut loose, the better off you're going to be. Unfortunately, the doom and gloom is real for a lot of people. And in time, most of them will see clear skies for themselves and how they might want to participate. As for now, they're just part of the changing story if they like it or not. This is a rare moment in time where every soul can choose the right path now. Instead of being corralled, forced, manipulated from what is meant to be their birthright. It's all taking place naturally, and so far, mostly unnoticed. But that can be expected, as the trend is just now getting established. I believe it's a natural law where more governments represent the interest of their citizens, the more national spirit that is created. Naturally, this will be reflected in the economy also. Currently, we have a world economy holding on with a thread, which is the same picture as with national governments. Both are the two sides of the same coin. Yes, indeed. If my theory is correct, we will see new services come and take their places, which will run on better principles, like the law of attraction, for an example, or do no harm. This is one that gets violated all the time, and includes making toxic products that are harmful to the earth and its inhabitants. When businesses start to pay attention to these principles, they will lead others in this new exciting direction from the old status quo. No more take it or leave it attitudes or tracking or selling customers' information with built-in expiration dates. I think they call it design adolescence. So you will not have to take it on faith because it's all going to happen naturally in plain sight. The old principles of business are simply going to be outdated, and any business that holds on to these old principles or doesn't really serve humanity's best interest will be the first wave to disappear. This will include a lot of big names This will certainly be the signs of the new golden age that we're headed into. The world in which we want to live in will never be achieved by centralizing the authority and growing this colossal government to regulate societies worldwide. It will be a complete failure. Like the Roman Empire, it will only bring suffering. This is the problem we have with governments getting too big. It starts to serve its own interest, and the people become the secondary considerations. To keep governments from abusing their citizens is to keep them in need of their citizens. The citizens must be in control of their governments to keep them on their best behavior. When nations start to see their governments answer to global authority, there's no coming back from this situation. I think it's becoming more apparent. It's the deep state that is pushing this global agenda, and it's quite obvious. You know, the only government that humanity really needs is one that is where local residents participate in the regional issues. This means a decentralized governance. There's a smart and skilled, intelligent people out there that can manage their own regional affairs better than anyone sitting in the White House, completely removed from realities. Its administrative heads remain anonymous while the public's talking heads pretend to be the leaders. The overwhelming majority of the upper management in the governments are narcissistic personalities, complicit with evil. Evil intensifies as you move up the ladder of rank and file within the deep state organizational force, where complicity is more of a choice than a requirement. This is approaching the 1% mark. These are the faceless elites who control 90% of the world's Fortune 500 companies, the world's resources, stripping resources from developing countries with very little to return to improve life for those countries. Instead, these countries grow in debt. They make the policies and create the agendas not to improve the world, but to keep the world as it's been. The most respectful description I can give these guys are narcissistic sociopaths that define the definition of ego, which means they're 180 degrees misaligned with the majority of souls on the planet in their moral complex that they live in. Their relationship with each other is purely symbiotic. Their relationship with the world is purely parasitical. The capital cities of the world are highly contagious. Actors that are pretending to be looking after humanity's best interests. But that's not what's on the inside. I'm just saying, what's on the menu is not what we're getting. The big question on the table now is, why are we seeing the most powerful, organized, oldest surviving government of the old world starting to collapse now? We're talking about an unprecedented amount of history here. This makes the Vatican look like a brand new baby in the family of leadership. Yeah, this is an elephant in the room. YouTube has made its alliance with big media censorship. So I guess everyone's cautious about engaging on the subject, at least for now. The significance of history is usually in hindsight. So it will be worth keeping an eye open for the next decade to make your own assessment verification. Please don't take my word for it. The huge imbalance we have witnessed in the world for the last decade has a very beautiful, promising side to it, though. It's tipped the scale. This is a God particle event, manifesting a defense force that is now alive and present in the very fabric of reality that we're living in right now. This is a presidential grand event that we're starting to see. This is a phenomenon that you have to witness for yourself. Otherwise, it means nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing. I believe it was the year 2012 is the marker of this reversal event that we're seeing now, a decade later. Although it's difficult to pinpoint. It could have been earlier. There is a pattern in natural law that has this white swan moment where you get a phase transition, like when a star is born or at the point of extreme saturation triggering a new normal. It's all about securing our future, a future that most of the people on the planet are working toward. Not all, but most. The deep state is aware of this also, a phenomenon that they have no doubt are going to try to spin to some bullshit alien race, pointing themselves as intermediators for humanity's best interest. Come on, trust me, this is something that humanity will not need a government for, because they're quite capable of governing themselves. We don't need the deep state's interference. We just need to be left alone to do it ourselves. Our society is conditioned and programmed to take sides. And sports is a good example of this. Like a theater, it also generates tons of money and works on the principle of opposing teams battling for victory. Governments are predicated on this same principle. There's a left and a right, conservative and liberals. There's not a lot of moral difference between the black and white actors, regardless of their color of hat or their tie. These are operatives and agents that are all employed by the same umbrella of organizations that write the scripts for each side. Can the director persuade the audience to the left or the right? Sure. This old game of reassessing blame, shifting the attention from the raging fire, meanwhile the currency continues to devaluate. This is certainly a show, and it will probably go on for some more time. The administrative branch of the State Department is a self-perpetuating theater that connects and supports all the black markets of the world through their big brother, the deep state, which officially does not exist. This is a pathetic reality. When our country was younger, the public could see government officials battling in territories under mafia control. The same was true with cartels as time passed. A huge portion of the Midwest here was controlled by the Chicago Mafia, which controlled not limited to, but liquor, morphine, gambling markets. Today, the Chicago Mafia has given way to the state of Illinois, still in Illinois, has given way to the feds, and so on and so on. Commodities are always controlled by, just fill in the blank here. It's naive to think that the black markets could not have evolved and reorganized into a larger syndicate that has grown to global implications. I mean, to get out of jail free and a good paying job is certainly going to attract a lot of handsome dark souls, funding and deep state sources. It's better to understand extremism as a business. There's a lot of overhead involved. It's not going to be funded by people working 9 to 5 raising families, especially in countries where making extra money is very difficult. It's a job, and they're getting paid well for it. The deep state is best known for its ties to the industrial war machine, which supports war for profit. It's been this way for millenniums. The deep state, or shadow government, controls all of the lifelines of society: shipping, ports of entry, big pharma, the medical establishment, departments of energy, so on, so on. I've never heard anyone say this, but we always had an unofficial one world government working in the shadows of our great empires of history. It goes all the way back to the Canaanites, King Solomon. Really, there's quite a bit of history there. There is quite a few layers in the cake here. The public only sees the bottom layer of the cake. But the problem is most of it's covered up by the second layer of cake. Each layer has its own security barrier. Heads of state answer to the feds answer to the intelligence agencies, and they answer to the black nobility and the Order of the Dragon, and up the ladder it goes, running 24/7 on a need-to-know law of order, which is enforced by an internal security force of its own. Meanwhile, the deep state grows exponentially as it rewrites the rules in the game in each administration, changing the balance of the world order globally. The deep state's theater works like this. The black hats, good at organizing and planning a problem, only to get the white hats to rally and oppose so a compromise can be reached, and life goes on no wiser. In the end, the deep state laughs all the way to the bank with their lucrative back office deals and contracts. Social narcissism affects most certainly everybody. It's everybody's best interest to clearly see the situation we have today with open eyes so they can properly decide how they want to participate instead of being forced to react like pawns on a chessboard. Our society is the patient and the disease. And the deep state is hell-bent on perpetuating that disease, and the other hand is selling us the promised cure. This is the oldest con in history, for Christ's sakes. Tested and proven. The bottom line, the future is not the doom and gloom that is promised by the deep state and their propaganda media outlets. They need the public in stress and fear. This makes it so much easier for them to manifest their agenda of dominating the world by, yeah, you guessed it, by promising the compromise solution. It's all a part of the good show, creating the problem and offering the compromise solutions. The future will be challenging as society struggles with the changes that are currently manifesting. The tide has turned, though. Every year is going to reveal more and more secrets that have been buried in the mud as the tide goes out. The political landscape is going to be much, much different than what we have at high tide. We're talking about a very big cycle here. Some people are starting to call it the new Renaissance. Not to get that confused with the Great Reset. That's the deep state story. And trust me, there's nothing great about it.